We all know that Joe Biden said he would nominate a black woman for the Supreme Court, and he has upheld his promise of nominating a black woman for the Supreme Court. And for that, a lot of people are very excited. And I understand why you would be excited, because it's never happened before. It's unprecedented. So the first thing I want to do is I want to be a human being, and I want to say, and particularly to black women, I feel you. See, one of the things I noticed is that whenever we do these like breakdowns, we start picking through, we're not always very reasonable in understanding to the people that are emotionally connected. There are people that are emotionally connected to this opportunity. Whether you want to believe it or not, there are women that feel that they get extremely discriminated against. And this gives them an opportunity to see something happen that they weren't sure was ever going to happen. And though I say, in this society, blackness, race trumps everything else, I do not want to underappreciate the relevancy of a black woman on the Supreme Court. So this is a monumental moment for those black women that feel this as a signifying moment. You don't want to take that away from people. Let's not act like we don't understand what people may feel. There are people so connected to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, they made her the most special thing since sliced bread, because they were connected to her because of what she represented. So we're taking our time with it. We're not going to act like we're in such a rush that we can't acknowledge that this is a monumental moment for black women. I also want to recognize that this will be a monumental moment for women in general, because for the first time, there will be 4 women on the Supreme Court at the same time. So give it up for that. There are women who feel separate from the racial issue. There are women who feel that women are underrepresented in America, underrepresented in politics, don't have the political power that they should have. They vote more than men, but they don't hold as many seats. This is America. We can say the same things. We can say both things exist. We can say racism exists, classism exists, and so does sexism. We do not have to shy away from that. And even though this is a black-oriented show where you put out a lot of black shit, and I say all my black shit, there is no reason why I can't acknowledge that women in general are going to feel a certain kind of way about an opportunity to have 4 women on the bench. To miss that opportunity in your commentary, or for me to miss it, forget what you do, for me to miss the opportunity to express that because I'm so fast to run down the hill and want to point out flaws, would be not doing my due diligence. And also, I want to do some more conversions. You feel me? All right. Whew. I also would like to point out that Miss Judge Brown Jackson her parents went to HBCUs. Yeah, her parents went to historically black colleges. Not rich people, okay? Rich people don't go to HBCUs. They go to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and what have you. Now, she did go to those schools, but her parents didn't. And that's because it did not have that type of paper, Johnson. Okay? All right. So that's where we are. Those are some background points I want to make. I will come back to more background later that I also think is very relevant. Let's go to all the work she's done in the private sector. Okay, so we know, I think she's a Harvard graduate as well. 2 degrees, not just one. The jurist has 2 degrees from Harvard, which she attended as an undergraduate and as a law student. She once served as editor of the Harvard Law Review. Come on now, that sounds like Obama, Johnson. That's Obama right there, boy. That's what that is. Yeah. It was good enough to be president. That was what? Obama was Law Review. We kept hearing that all the place. Oh, Law Review, Law Review. I don't even know what the Harvard Law Review does. But I know I was impressed back in 2007, like, what that brother did what? What that brother do? He did what? Okay. All right. Sounds good. We might get one, Johnson. We might get one. Yeah, so that's impressive. And if you are not digging through the weeds, if you are not sifting through, there may be enough for you to ride off and be very happy, sing hallelujah, Take your girls out to lunch or brunch. They're about to lift all the mask mandates. Hey, it's time to party. Celebrate. Far too long, our government, our court, hasn't looked like America, Mr. Biden says on Friday when he announced his pick. I believe it's time that we have a court that reflects the full talent and greatness of our nation. Come on now, Joe Biden. Talking that talk. Here he is. She was born in Washington, D.C., but she grew up mostly in Miami. At her 2021 confirmation to the appellate court, she credited a background in public service with her decision to work as a public defender. That's right. She didn't just defend corporations, she defended poor people. Public defenders are poor people. Those are people that can't afford their own lawyer. Because Lord knows if you got money, you're going to get you a real lawyer. You don't get a public defender because public defenders are overworked, they don't have time, and some of them are not as committed to your survival or your justice as you are. So, if you can afford one, you go get one. But if you don't have one, we will provide one for you. It's like getting that sandwich. You ever went to school and you ain't had no lunch money? And they gave you that choke sandwich from the back. They gave you that peanut butter sandwich with no jelly, with the hard bread. That's a public defender. Now, I don't want to knock it, because when your stomach is grumbling, you need something. But come on now, keep it a buck. But they have that listed here for Ms. Jackson. And she did that for 2 years. 2 years she was a public defender. She is 51 years old, and for 2 years, she worked as a public defender. I talked about her parents. One was a teacher. Both her parents graduated. Oh, they both were teachers, I'm sorry. Her brother was a police officer who also served in the military. She also clerked for Justice Breyer during the Supreme Court's 1999 to 2000 term. So she worked for the judge that she's replacing. And that's something, Johnson. And that's something. Go ahead, man. President Barack Obama nominated Ms. Jackson to serve as a district court judge in Washington, D.C. So Obama appointed her in 2012. During her 8 years spent on the district court, she wrote about 500 opinions. Among them, she ruled that Donald F. McGahn, the former White House counsel to President Donald Trump, had to testify in the Russian meddling probe. All shucks. So a lot of people are focusing on that. Say, hey, man, she went against Trump to Trump. She went against a Trump lawyer. But hey, still, she was willing to challenge powers, right? So, okay. So now it's where it gets a little murky. Ms. Jackson, a liberal justice, has a family connection to Paul Ryan, former House Speaker and ex-Republican vice presidential candidate, Paul Ryan. You remember Paul Ryan, don't you? Yeah. Obstructionist Paul Ryan. Yeah. That Paul Ryan. While her nomination, she has 2 children. She's married. Her husband is a surgeon. A white surgeon. Hey, I'm just saying. I'm just putting that out there. Shouldn't matter, Tim. I know it shouldn't matter. But come on now. Everything matters. This is America. Race matters. Ain't that right, Cornel West? You don't think it matters, but you love Cornel West, and I don't know where you're coming from, Johnson, because that was the first book I read of Dr. Cornel West was his book, Race Matters. It matters so much, he made it the title. But you go ahead and live in your fantasy world. That makes you feel better, boo-boo. While the nomination has been widely praised by Democrats, 2 South Carolina Republicans, Lindsey Graham, fuck him, and Tim Scott, go to hell, Tim Scott, criticized the president for choosing Ms. Jackson over Michelle Childs, a judge from their home state. They say Judge Childs was on Biden's short list. Well, better to be on a short list than a short bus. But they say Ms. Jackson, Brown Jackson, was considered the favorite. And she was in the lead, and she never relinquished that lead. She's already been confirmed by the Senate twice. Oh, once, I'm sorry. When the president nominated her to appellate court judgeship, although her judicial record will be scrutinized in the days ahead. It is liberal, but not extreme. Her credentials, Ivy League Law School, a clerkship with retiring Supreme Court Justice Bryans, which I already mentioned. And Clyburn really likes her. Yeah, Clyburn, you say, but Ms. Childs was the more unconventional pick. Clyburn had his own favorite, South Carolina judge Michelle Childs, who Tim Scott wanted as well. But he said Ms. Childs was a more unconventional pick, without Ms. Jackson's rarefied academic pedigree. Says picking her may have been politically helpful for Mr. Biden, but that's not how this president works. Okay. So I don't know what that means exactly, but that's what he says. Okay. So we got a little background. We have to take an opportunity to understand who this person is. So as we form our opinion about, is this a good pick? We must know what we're forming our opinion based on. We shouldn't just form it on the fact that she's picked by Joe Biden. We shouldn't just form it on the fact that she's a black woman. We need to form it based on what she's done, what she's proven her positions to be. So as I was doing this background check, I saw that there was a judge who gave some pushback to Judge Jackson Brown. Oh, I'm sorry, Brown Jackson. I keep putting the two last names in the wrong place. Alabama's first black federal judge, U.W. Clement. He sent a letter to Joe Biden advising him against appointing Ketanji Brown to the U.S. Supreme Court. Yeah. Now, why would he do something like that? Why would he go on the record and say, this is not the one? Don't pick her. Let's not act like this is regular. We got the first black first black federal judge in Alabama standing up and saying, pick a sister, don't pick this sister. Now we can act like that don't mean anything, like that's small potatoes. Or we can consider what his points are. Now this is what I found out. And somebody in my comment section on Friday told me about this, because I didn't know about it on Friday. But I've had the weekend, Johnson. So there was a class action lawsuit at Lockheed Martin. And it was a total of like 5,500 people that could be included in this class action lawsuit. And there was a settlement amount that was up for her to consider. These black workers were claiming discrimination, that they were discriminated while they worked at Lockheed Martin. The amount in the settlement was $22 million. Clement said it would have implemented reforms in Lockheed's evaluation system for pay and promotions. So it was not just the money aspect, but it was also the changes Lockheed would have to agree to, which were more consequential than the money. This is what Mr. Clement wrote in his letter. He said, as you consider the candidates for your legacy appointment to the highest court of the land, it's entirely appropriate for you to take into account not simply what each aspirant has done for her own career, but equally so, which she has done for the cause of justice and equality. Based on their conduct in Ross v. Lockheed, I strongly believe that Circuit Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson should not be appointed by you as the first black female justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. So wow, once again, this should be paused. We should slow down. We should take a look at this. This is not somebody willy-nilly just throwing out, disparaging remarks about a black woman going to the, getting appointed. This is another black first saying there's a red flag. And I want you to consider that red flag. Because remember, there was a list of 9 black women being considered. All the women that made that, that were up for consideration were black. So what I'm saying is this judge, federal judge, Mr. Clement, Judge Clement had a reason. Here's what the reason is based on. Clement served as counsel at the firm Meary and Skated, which represented the plaintiffs in the Ross v. Lockheed case. So he was on the other side of Miss Jackson. Miss Brown Jackson, okay? That's where he was. He was part of the lawsuit that was brought against Lockheed Martin. He represented plaintiffs. Jackson is the circuit court judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia from 2013 to 2021. She was the district judge on the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. Some people found out this about Miss Jackson, Judge Jackson, that was enough for them. Oh, Tim Black, you're withholding information. You don't want to keep it real. I'm like, dog, give me a chance to do research. I cover a lot of stories. Let me peel back the onion. But that was enough for them to throw it. No, forget it. It's over. It's a wrap. She did not stick beside these black folks against Lockheed Martin. She turned down their lawsuit, their settlement. Sellout. She must be a sellout. Let's go. They were very, very quick to come to that conclusion. I'm not going to say I'm going to hold it against them because I understand how that looks. How does that look, guys? Come on, Wolfpack. How does it look when you, the black judge, we bring our case before you about discrimination from the major Fortune 100 company? It's race discrimination against Lockheed Martin, who gets all these government contracts, and you stand between us or them and this lawsuit. That looks horrible. We are tired of black people stabbing black people in the back for white corporations. Aren't we? So I get it totally, and I don't hold anybody at fault for this. It is our job as journalists, or our job as commentators, or our job as analysts to go the extra mile, to find out what's going on behind it, and then give you the information and see if that cements your opinion or if it changes it. So let's get into that. Oh, I told you we're going to take our time. I'm not just going to come up here and say a bunch of curse words, throw out a couple jokes that land and don't land, and call it a day. No, I'm not going to change my voice up and act high, get all dramatical, as if I'm telling you some new shit. And then say, that's a good day. Let's have a good day. And say, go hit the pay cap, or the pay app, the cash app, hit the cash app, like I just did something. Now, we're just getting started, Johnson. I'm going to do all that, but I'm going to do it after I finish doing my job. Okay. Here's where we get to the nitty-gritty. Just like you, I'm concerned. What the hell's going on? Why did she make that choice? Now, this is from an independent. I went to a source outside of the United States. Because when I looked at MSNBC or CNN, oh my God, it was very hard to find a critical person at all. Hell, It was hard to find an unbiased person. Hell, it was hard to find anybody bring up any type of information that was not congratulatory. Everything I was seeing from the MSNBC light and the MSNBC crowd was applause. It was applause. It basically was victory laps. Everything was supportive. Nothing was speculative or diving into her background. Nobody held up a magnifying glass to, her background. So I went to the independentco.uk out of the UK. I looked at the BBC records, and this is what I found. Okay. Out of 40 employment and business-related rulings reviewed by the Associated Press, Jackson ruled for the defendants 30 times since 2013. This is while serving as judge on the U.S. District Court in Washington. Many of the cases involve discrimination. Claims that employees had filed against government agencies, and they hinged largely on interpretations of arcane provisions of employment laws. In one of her private sector cases, Jackson ruled that a Lyft ride-sharing driver had agreed to the company terms of service when she signed up with the company, and therefore had to pursue arbitration to settle a dispute, rather than a class action lawsuit. The driver had claimed that she and others were Lyft employees who were protected by the law in the District of Columbia that entitled them to paid sick leave. So, evidently, when you're a Lyft driver, you sign paperwork that you don't know what it means. But in fact, it effectively says you cannot sue, or you have to allow any disputes with the company to be handled through an arbitrator. You can't all pile together and go file a class action lawsuit. At least that's how it was interpreted by Judge Jackson. In one representative case from 2017, 2 black employees from Lockheed Martin alleged racial discrimination in their company performance appraisals. The employees asked Jackson to certify a class action lawsuit against the defense contractor on behalf of themselves and roughly 5,500 salaried black employees. Jackson declined in her ruling, which relied heavily on a 2011 Supreme Court decision that rejected the class action against Walmart. So, she agreed with the earlier decision where Walmart was in a similar position and Walmart was able to avoid class action lawsuit. Jackson found that Ross and Josie had failed to explain how the company's performance appraisal system discriminated against black workers. She concluded that they also failed to prove that the performance appraisal system discriminated against black workers in the same way, a standard that will be required in a class action lawsuit. So in a class action lawsuit, you have to be able to prove, apparently, that everybody's problem, everyone's discrimination is the same. We were all discriminated in the same way. It's symptomatic of a deeper problem of discrimination. And we all have the same symptoms because we all have the same bug. When you work with Lockheed Martin, that bug is you're black. I happen to know there is a lot of discrimination at Lockheed Martin. And let's just say I know some from personal experience. Okay, so this is what she wrote. Ms. Jackson wrote this. She said, 2 anecdotes in the class of over 5,500 almost certainly do not constitute a substantial proof that any commonalities between them are pervasive throughout the class. So, to her, they had met the burden of proof that this was similar enough that everyone had the same claim. Now, this is where it gets interesting. It says the ruling wasn't exactly a victory for Lockheed Martin, though. It sounds like a victory, though, doesn't it? Listen here. Jackson questioned the adequacy of the company's proposed $22 million, saying that was a settlement fund, saying it was unclear exactly what claims other employees might bring against the company. The judge also noted the class members who didn't respond to the settlement notice, not just those who opted out, will be ineligible to receive compensation from the fund. So, was she doing this to help black workers who were discriminated against? Or was she doing so to help the corporation? This settlement agreement, Jackson wrote, effectively allows Lockheed to inoculate itself against any and all race discrimination and race-related benefits claims by a huge swath of its African-American employees for a price that hardly seems adequate. That's what she wrote at the time. The two employees that were listed in the class action lawsuit, who brought the class action lawsuit, they reached a settlement with Lockheed Martin for an undisclosed amount of money. I don't know how much money they settled for, but they settled. Here's the thing. I have no way of knowing if, in the long run, this helped Lockheed more than it helped those two employees. Was there ever a class action lawsuit brought that held Lockheed Martin accountable for racial discrimination against its employees? And if you want to ask, does Lockheed Martin racially discriminate? It's pretty well known, if you're in the tech field, that you can go to pretty much any major corporation, and that'll be the case. No, seriously. I spent my whole entire professional life before this working for government agencies in the D.C. area as a contractor. It's pretty well known that every one of these defense contractors, all of these government contractors, all of them discriminate. That's like it's water wet. But can you prove it? Can you prove it? And can you prove it is systemic enough where it's like systemic where it's cookie cutter for all employees? And that's what a class action lawsuit, that's the purpose of a class action lawsuit. If not, what you may still have a lawsuit, but it may not be a class action lawsuit. Class action lawsuits, faulty brakes on the car causes an accident. If you had an accident because of the brakes on that 2014 Honda Accord, then you're part of this lawsuit because you met the criteria. Those are the criteria of that lawsuit. But the lawsuit can't be, did you crash your car? Because there may or may not be brakes. Did your car malfunction? Did the engine blow? You can have a problem with the car that's not specific enough to fall within the class action lawsuit. I hope that makes sense. So these two employees, yes, they did end up getting their money. I don't know how much money, but I do think it was less than $22 million. How can you say you work for an employer, you didn't get raises, and you should be compensated $11 million apiece? So anyway. But also, let's keep it real. If you Lockheed Martin, and you are discriminated against 5,500 people, what's $22 million? So see, this is why we got to have this conversation, because Lockheed Martin, $22 million ain't nothing to Lockheed Martin. We're talking about Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin don't get out of bed for $22 million. Lockheed Martin won't change its own tires on the F-35 for $22 million. $22 million ain't enough for them to, they wipe their nose with $22 million. We're talking about Lockheed Martin, okay? So I agree that if this is a valid lawsuit, $22 million is a horrible lowball fee. That's thrift store prices. And I shopped at a thrift store when I was a kid. But if we're talking about making a Fortune 100 company pay for damages that is discriminated against 5,500 black employees, we need to charge them, or they need to be settled for a lot more than $22 million. We should talk about, I don't know, $2 billion. Yeah, let's get the numbers up. So here's the thing, depending on how you look at this. There are some people that feel like, oh, she's okay. I like her because she did not go with the employees. That's how some Republicans look at it. I was looking at one Republican, Levy. I don't know who he is. But he felt that since she, it could be a good sign that perhaps she's not an ideologue in general. So some Republicans feel that's good she didn't side that way. Then there are others who feel like, well, maybe it's good she didn't side that way because it wouldn't have helped. But in most cases, she does side with the employees. In most cases, she does side with employees and with unions, as she did with Donald Trump. Here we go. In her first opinion as a federal appeals court judge, a position to which Jackson was confirmed last year, she ruled against President Donald Trump in a case praised by labor unions. In a victory for the unions, Jackson ruled that the decision to override 35 years of precedent was arbitrary and capricious. She also questioned whether the change would solve the problems the agency had claimed it was trying to fix. So, I don't know. That's where we are. I'm sorry. It's not going to give you a definitive yes, no, up, down ruling. But here's the thing, and I hope people understand this. She's a part of the system. Yeah, she's a part of the system, Johnson. Judge Brown. If she was going to ride for black people, she would not be where she is. I don't care what you say in the back of your mind, what you think. If she's going to ride all out for black people, she would not be where she is. She is not an activist. She's a judge. Just like these people are not activists, they are politicians. We get the two mixed up. So anybody who thinks, oh, God, we got a black woman and she's going to do this, she's going to do that, no. Hell no, she's not. Is it possible that she could wear these things in a different way than a white woman may do, or a different way that a black man may do, or a different way that as a white man may do? Yes, that's possible. That's possible. But shouldn't you be jumping up and down going, oh, we got a black woman now, that means she's going to make some changes? No, that would be stupid. You don't get, look guys, we got to stop. You don't get to become CEO or part of the board unless you are of the type of person that they want to pick to be on the board. You don't maverick your way into working for somebody else's company. And in this case, the United States government is a company. The United States government is a company. Supreme Court is a company. It's a body. Look at it the same way. If you don't get appointed to it, you don't get nominated to it, let alone appointed to it, without being a part of the system. Nobody elects mavericks and rebels. Nobody chooses mavericks and rebels to be their judges. You may win a local judgeship, right? But you're not going to be chosen by a president if you're a maverick. You're too risky. So I think it's unreasonable to think that. You can lie to yourself if you want, but I'm not going to lie to you for you. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear if that's what you want to hear. I'm also not going to dump on her viciously because, all in all, I think she's about as good as you're going to get. And all in all, I don't expect her to do anything out of the ordinary, basically speaking, other than be basically sort of liberal at times. That's what the track record will show. Not a civil rights attorney. Okay? Just because she's serving 2 years as a public defender doesn't mean she's a civil rights activist, as they're trying to bill her out. And it doesn't mean I don't want her to get nominated. Appointed. Get what I'm saying? What I'm saying is, I think some people's idea of what she's going to do, totally out of whack. Unrealistic. Leads you to have hurt feelings. Also leads you to be set up to be used. It's not like we got a choice in this at all anyway. Do I think we could have did better? I don't know what she's up against. I don't know the other options. But I think you could have done worse. Yes. I believe you could do worse. You could do worse than someone who served as a public defender, whose parents went to an HBCU, whose family members, I read somewhere that a close member of the family was, went to jail for life because of possession of weed. 3 strikes law. I don't think that's something that Ruth Bader Ginsburg or Breyer ever had to experience. Will she bring that knowledge and that live experience to her job and apply it? I don't know. There are all types of people come from all types of beginnings, which you wouldn't even be able to tell because they're so busy running from that thing, you would never know that they were ever connected to that thing. So that's not enough, is it? It's not enough to just say I had hard times. Some people who had hard times become the biggest sellouts. Right? Because they try to get away from the hard times. They never want to go back to the hard times. And they don't want their kids to go back to the hard times. So they make hard decisions. To make their lives easier and make our lives harder. I'm not saying that's the case with this lady. I have no way to know that. This judge could turn out being great. But more than likely, she'll turn out just being okay. And how she turns out really will come down to what you have in your head that you think she should be. Just like when I talk to people about Obama. I say, hey, what about Obama? Why did he do this? Why did he do that? They go, oh, what could he do? Because they have in their head about what an expectation they should have for Obama. And for some of those people, just the fact that he was elected is enough. And the fact that he got reelected was enough. They got caught up in symbolism. And I can't knock him but so much because the first term, I was caught up with it too. But we all live and learn. So that was a long way for me to say something. Long, long way for me to get around to it. But at the end of the day, Johnson, I want to get my hopes up high. And I don't care what anybody else says. It's a learning moment.